Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time. Here, not from the Zen Sports Studio. We are in the 305. We are in Miami for Monday Night Football tomorrow between the Titans and the Dolphins. We are going to discuss three keys that this football team needs to get right in terms of the win-loss column and get right on the road against an opponent that is looking to get them back for what they did to the Dolphins last year. We're happy to have you guys in for another episode of the Primetime program. We are looking forward to diving into this with you. I'm looking forward to seeing how this game plays out. I know things don't feel good. I know that it is difficult to see I don't want to say the light at the end of the tunnel for this because that would assume that your season is dying. Don't walk towards the light. We're trying to avoid the light in this particular situation. But we're going to talk about what the Titans can do to beat the Dolphins and see how this whole thing plays out. William Jones says it's hot down here in Miami. That's right. It was 90 degrees today. It is expected to be 90 degrees tomorrow. If you can see how frizzed out my hair is, the humidity is being definitely not being cooperative with everything. So, of course, that's going to factor into the game itself. I know that they are not going to be directly in the sun on the opponent's sideline the way that Hard Rock Stadium can sometimes get you with if you play a 1 o'clock or a noon game down here at the Dolphins. But in particular, the environment is going to be interesting. The weather is going to be a factor. And certainly we are going to see what this team can do to get up off the mat. Randy Howard says, hope Miami is in good shape after the hurricane. Prayers up. They didn't get touched. Miami didn't get a sniff of Hurricane Helene. Fortunately for them, that hurricane went up the opposite coast of where Miami is. In fact, Nashville got more weather as a result of the hurricane than did South Beach. So it's pretty interesting to see. It's been beautiful down here the entire time, it sounds like, and certainly we're going to hope that continues to be the case because I know they have some more hurricane-related storm stuff in this part of the country that is due. But we're not here to give you a weather report, though weather could be a factor against the Dolphins. We're here to talk about this game and how the Titans can go about getting a win. Halo says Buck is enjoying Miami. I always enjoy Miami. Miami is one of my favorite cities in the country. Nashville is my favorite city in the country, but Miami is up there certainly in the top three. Before we dive in, need you to share this show around on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch in the comment section. Whether you're hanging out with us on Twitter, you can retweet the show. It's in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you're on Facebook Live, you can share. You can share now to public. That's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. And if you're on YouTube or Twitch, please like the video, subscribe to the channel while you're there, where people like William Jones says on YouTube, South Beach has all the cheeks. Yes, well, you're hoping that your football team does not contribute to the amount of cheeks that are down here on South Beach, because you need to get right. You need to win a football game, even if you look ugly doing it, even if you look like cheeks doing it. You need to get a win against the Dolphins tomorrow. The Dolphins also need to get a win against you. I've done must-win games every week of this season so far, and we're only 4 weeks into the regular season. But we are going to see if they can pull off the improbable and get a win on the road against an opponent that's not really quality right now. In fact, they're dragging a leg pretty considerably at this point, so it's incumbent upon you to take advantage. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time, not from the Zen Sports Studio. We are here in Miami. I'm your host, Buck Rising. If you're new to the show, we appreciate you guys for showing up. David Allen says, thank you for doing the show. Agree, must win for the Titans or a wasted year. Yes, you're trying to avoid wasting as much of this year as humanly possible. But we are going to see what they can do. And, of course, we are going to get into these things that are always presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. They are also made possible by True Man Fitness in the Gulch. No workout ever recycled or repeated. Just go to TrueManFitness.com for that first workout free. By Zen Sports. Download the app, plug in the promo code ATOZTN. Get up to $100 on your no danger first wager in the Zen Sports app. Terms and conditions do apply. So, the keys to beating the Dolphins. There are going to be 3 of them, and all I need from you is just one. What is your biggest key for the Titans to have success down here in Miami. So 0-3 is the start. Will Levis as the Titans starting quarterback. He's completed 64 of 94 attempts. He has, so that's 68.1 completion percentage, 579 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. He is tied for the second most interceptions through 4 weeks of football before he's even played a game, with Anthony Richardson, who left today's Colts win, by the way. The Colts won against the Pittsburgh Steelers without Anthony Richardson, and they won comfortably against the Pittsburgh Steelers, dealing Pittsburgh their first loss of the year. But Richardson has 6 prior to his hip injury that knocked him out of today's game. And Mahomes also have 5 interceptions. Christian Fulton, Titans legend, getting a pick off Patrick Mahomes earlier this morning. He has a quarterback rating, Will Levis does, of 76.5, and the results have been suspect at best. Suspect to poor, depending on how you view this football team and everything that's going on with them. We know that Will Levis is the most important thing to figure out this season, but it's not just about figuring out Will Levis. It's also about trying to win games in the process with all of this. And in doing so, we are going to take a look at what Levis can do, but also what the rest of this offense can do to try and pick him up off the mat. Because for the most part, it has to be infuriating if you're a Titans fan, because I can't do the analysis by saying, well, if you take away the bonehead mistakes, he's actually playing pretty good football, because you can't take away the bonehead mistakes. The bonehead mistakes exist. There is nothing that can be done to remove them, and they are factored into his performance. So where the rest of the performance on the one hand is pretty solid. I mean, I wouldn't say that he's been great by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, they've been pretty solid, even good on opening possessions where it comes to scoring, getting an early lead. That's been a pretty notable hallmark of this Titans offense so far. Coming out of the gates, they do pretty well, but then it's the rest of the 60 minutes that follow after those initial scoring drives where things seem to fall to shit, and you're trying to figure out, okay, how can you prevent the Titans as a Titans player, as a Titans coach, as a Titans fan? How can you prevent this team from shooting themselves in the foot and squandering these leads that they do pretty well to start out with? So I cannot do the evaluation of Will Levis on the one hand by saying, yeah, he's been pretty good, save the boneheaded mistakes, because the boneheaded mistakes are on the other side of this thing, and those are the things that have crushed you in these games. Now, he's not the only thing to blame for the reason that this team has struggled, but I think that there is a lot to work with at this point in the direction of this season and trying to salvage it, because I do think that I don't know that you're making the playoffs. In fact, I would be shocked if you make the playoffs at this point. It would be a significant upset. You've got like a 2% chance of making the postseason. This is not a playoff team. It's not a good team right now, and you have to go about that. You have to go about that realistically. You were in a hole when you went down 0-2. You had a 6% chance of making the postseason. Down 0-2 and 0-3, of course, nukes you even further. Now, the thing that also benefits you is the Jags are the only 0-4 team right now in football. You can avoid joining them in this 0-4 hole with a win on Monday night. Ben Hall says, well, your colleague Easton has been saying exactly that he's doing fine, minus the colossal mistakes. Well, listen, I don't know what's been said by other people about this particular situation or the quarterback, but if you are somebody who is analyzing the quarterback, this particular quarterback in this particular season, given all the things that we've talked about, if your analysis is, well, if you take away the mistakes, he's playing good football, then the analysis is void. It doesn't mean anything, because the mistakes are there. The mistakes are being made. The mistakes are costing you football games. He's got more turnovers, or he had more turnovers through the first 3 weeks than any other quarterback in the sport. So that's nonsensical to me. And, Easton or whomever is entitled to feel however they want to feel about it. But, I think that's pretty ridiculous to try and do the analysis that way, when a huge part of the reason that they are in the 0-3 hole that they're in is because he keeps turning the ball over, and his colossal mistakes are a part of the turnovers. Some are not on him. Of course, two of the three turnovers in the Green Bay game, I won't pin on him. The end of game interception and the fumble NPF gets credit for the fumble, in my opinion, even though that goes against the quarterback stats. But yeah, the pick six is pretty tough to try and bail him out of, even if you're the biggest excuse maker in the world. And listen, I know that Easton's a Titans fan. I know that other people are Titans fans, and they want to see this. They want to see this player succeed. They want to see their team do well. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but you can't let your biases cloud what you're actually seeing. Now, I will tell you that I have felt more biased in my analysis this season than I have ever before, and I will admit this to you guys. They have legitimately impacted the way that I think about them. They've pissed me off more than I should be bothered by a football team that I have no rooting allegiance in. But it has been such a bad streak of bad football that anybody who is interested in being an apologist for this team, I don't think that I don't think the analysis is valid. Halo says, Buck, did you bring your blood pressure monitor? No, I didn't. No, it wouldn't fit in my carry-on. It's a big old bulky thing. It looks like a first generation Apple Watch. The thing is as big as my hand is. I could have brought it. It would have fit, but I honestly forgot it. The blood pressure monitor bit would be a good thing. But listen, if they lose, I'm not going to have I'm like your football team. If they lose, I'm not going to have a pulse because I'll go into the bye week. I'll take my vacation. We'll come back and we'll be talking draft for the remainder of the season, which is why this football team needs to get its shit together and get out there and win a game. So let's start with your Two Rivers Ford take on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. In the comment section, if you would like, let me know how you feel about the biggest key to the Titans' success tomorrow night. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch, like I mentioned. It's your Two Rivers Ford take. As always, it's presented, whether we're here in Miami or at home in Nashville, by the South's most trusted Ford dealer. That's Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet. Quality American-made Ford vehicles, award-winning customer service is what they offer. Go to tworiversford.com for more information, whether it's a Bronco, a Mustang, an Explorer like I drive. There is no better customer service or car buying experience than tworiversford.com. So, what is the biggest key for the Titans to have success on Monday Night Football against the Dolphins? It would be difficult for me to summarize it any better than your head coach Brian Callahan did after the Packers game, and I'll let you hear from him here in just a second. William Jones says, "Hey Buck, after the live, let's go hit up KOD." I don't know what my plans are this evening. I know Tehran was sniffing out a cigar bar. If I got to do 3 hours of radio tomorrow, I don't know if a cigar bar is the thing that I need in my future. But I certainly enjoy the nightlife here in Miami, certainly on South Beach, even though I'm not technically in South Beach this evening. Jody Newell says, important to keep an eye on the blood pressure, Buck. Yes, I understand, Jody. I've been made aware of this as a 31-year-old who has high blood pressure because your football team gives me high blood pressure. It's something that my doctor told me that I should monitor, which is why I have a wristband that monitors my blood pressure on a regular basis because they give me stress. Major Keys says, "Hey, Buck, I told the people I miss Vrabel football. Vrabel had us winning games we had no business winning, but Vrabel had his flaws. I just miss leadership. If only he had an elite offensive coordinator." Here's the thing, and like I read the comment because I understand the comment, and I don't think it's an invalid argument, right? Like Mike Vrabel was a winning coach, even if the end of his tenure here did not end with a positive win-loss percentage, right? His last two seasons were dreadful. There is no disputing that. But the roster was worse than the ultimate results were. 2022, they probably had no business winning 7 games. In 2023, they probably had no business winning 6 games, and they did it anyway. Now, the thing that killed Vrabel the most is, one, you can't try and check your boss when your boss is the ultimate power, and Amy did well to keep control of her organization. It is her organization. It was not Mike Vrabel's organization, even though Mike was the face of half the marketing. Derek was the other half, obviously. But the team very much leaned into the idea of being Vrabel's persona, right? So you can't, as an employer, allow your employee to think that they run the show. That's like if Zach and Austin needed to check me because my ego, and Zach and Austin have had to check me before because my ego is pretty substantial, and sometimes I can get ahead of myself. And that's not always the best thing for the functionality of the company, right? There needs to be checks and balances, and Mike got checked by the one person who is capable of checking him. The other part of this is with Vrabel, yeah, he won games that you had no business winning. And the thing the second thing that killed Mike the most was he had to replace an offensive coordinator because he himself was not an offensive play caller, right? Matt LaFleur, who just kicked your ass, went on to be a really successful head coach of the Green Bay Panthers. I know Art did not have as much success with the Atlanta Falcons, but he was good enough to get a head coaching job, and right now is orchestrating a 3-1 football team on offense with a quarterback that a lot of people left for dead. They're trying to do the Tannehill thing in Pittsburgh with Justin Fields, and Arthur was a big part of salvaging Ryan Tannehill at that point. Gary 2 times says that's bullshit and unfair to Callahan. It's not his fault 100% that we are 0-3. No, I would not pin 100% of the blame on Brian Callahan. You're correct. That would be completely unfair. But there is something to be said about situational football, and I don't think that Brian Callahan has put his players in the best position to succeed 100% of the time to date. Does that mean it's all his fault? No, but it does mean that he has some portion of the blame. Just like Vrabel held some portion of the blame and why his career here ended, Callahan has some portion of the blame that is assigned to him for why they are 0-3. And this is Brian Callahan speaking to us after the Green Bay Packers loss. I'll let you hear from him in just a second, right after I remind you that your Two Rivers Ford Take is presented by the South's most trusted Ford dealer. That's Two Rivers Ford, as I mentioned, but also Primetime is made possible by TrueMav Fitness in the Gulch. Your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. It's kind of cool to see it getting dark behind me in real time, by the way. Not even the best green screen could recreate that. Not even the best workouts could recreate what TrueMav Fitness has to offer, because their personal approach is like no other. Your workouts will never be recycled or repeated. Group fitness classes, personal training, an open gym for you to work out as you please with one of their cost-effective memberships. Go to TrueMavFitness.com for your first workout free. Okay, so what is the number one key for the Titans beating the Dolphins on Monday Night Football? Well, I will let Brian Callahan summarize it, because there is no truer statement of fact than how this team continues to be sabotaged by their inability to keep possession of the ball.
Kelly, you talked about Will yesterday. How do you try to coach a young quarterback through, making some of the decisions that he's making under duress?
Get done to start winning football games.
No, I'm not turning the ball over. That's clear as can be. I mean, we're last in the league in turnover margin. We're -7. And that doesn't count the block punts. So that's, to me, in my mind, that's -9 in 3 games. Of those 7 turnovers on offense, 14 points directly went back the other way. One of the punts directly went back the other way, so that's 21 points. I think we've lost 2 games by 7 points and 1 by 16, and there's your margin. That's a really, really hard thing to overcome, the volume and the frequency of them and how crushing they've been. Even that sack fumble, we're on the 30-yard line. It's a 2-score game. It's, even if we get a field goal there, or at least it's a 10-point game at the top of the fourth quarter, and it feels a little bit different. But then, we get sack fumbled, and the ball gets turned over again. So, and then we haven't gotten a single turnover on defense through 3 games, which is, I've not seen that very often. They just can't get it to break our way right now. Can't get the ball out. Part of that's because in this game, they were able to control it pretty well. But, yeah, if you want to look at one single thing right now that's getting in the way of us winning football games, that's turning the ball over. And, most of the teams down there with us in the margins, if they're down at -7, 5, 4, 3, most of those guys are probably 1-2, 0-3, whatever that looks like. So the turnover statistics in the NFL are glaring. It's not a mystery. You're in a plus. You're well into the plus. You're usually a playoff team. And you're deep in the minuses, you're usually not very, very good. And that's just the way it is. So,
in talking to various guys.
So that's Brian Callahan speaking with the media. That's the Monday after the Green Bay loss. A to Z Sports Prime Time is presented by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Go to GaryAshton.com. Get your dream address without the stress. Get the intel edge you need to succeed with the official real estate agent of the Nashville Predators. That is, of course, GaryAshton.com. And he's correct. The turnover margin has been a killer. And whether or not you blame the quarterback for all the turnovers or half the turnovers or some of the turnovers, whatever, there's no question that the turnovers are the thing that is bogging them down the most. Now, is there one cure-all for turning the ball over or not turning the ball over? No. Just as there's not one cure-all for you not turning the ball over as a defense. That's the other thing. They don't have a turnover as a defense through 3 weeks of professional football. And you know, Jeff Simmons is doubtful. We'll talk about the injury report here in just a second. But that's going to be a big part of causing Snoop Huntley, who is officially announced as the Dolphins quarterback. I guess that would have been yesterday. It's going to be a big part of it, forcing interior pressure, creating interior pressure, making the quarterback uncomfortable in the pocket, getting him on the move, getting him outside the pocket, helping other guys to create sacks because you're pushing the pocket and moving the quarterback outside of his comfort zone. Now, Snoop Huntley can make some plays on the move, but he's not Lamar Jackson. Neither was Malik Willis, though, and you weren't necessarily prepared for him either. You know damn sure that Denard Wilson has been drilling that fact into their heads over the course of these last 4 or 5 or I guess 6 days at this point. So the biggest key to success for the Tennessee Titans. Ramon on Facebook Live says hopefully Brownlee plays his ass off. Yeah, Jarvis Brownlee Jr. is going to start. Cheeto Awuzie is on injured reserve. Brownlee is a 5th-round rookie. We will see what he is capable of. He gave a really, really good, inspiring interview on the radio show for those of you who heard it on Friday. If you didn't, I would advise you to go check it out. Well worth your time, especially since he's a Miami native, coming home, getting to play at Hard Rock. He's very excited about it. But he's still a 5th-round rookie. He's going to be going up against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, which is no small feat. Mike McCown says, according to Sports Illustrated, the Titans are trading everyone. Staff members will be taking the field instead. Well, I don't believe this team is going to be a seller at the deadline. They spent too much money this offseason to do it. I don't think that either of them have the stones, Callahan or Rand Carthon, to go and spend all this money in the offseason, then turn around and tell Amy Adams Strunk, not that I'm, doubting their testicular fortitude, but I think anybody would have a hard time spending as much money as they did in the offseason, then turning around to the woman whose money they're spending and say, you know what, Amy, I think we're going to just burn a year of all these contracts. We're going to start selling off some pieces and parts. I don't necessarily know that any head coach, no matter whom you are, or general manager, no matter whom you are, would be able to, in good faith and good confidence, tell their ownership that. So I believe that they've spent too much money, that they've already expressed an interest in being meaningfully competitive, that I don't think that they would be sellers at the deadline. Though, listen, if they lose this football game, I'm pro selling. I'm not pro tanking. There's a difference, but I am pro selling parts to accumulate as much draft capital as possible and still trying to go out there and win football games. I know that might seem counterintuitive, because if you're going to sell, some of you might argue for the tank. I don't believe in tanking. I think tanking is garbage. There are plenty of organizations who have tried it. There are plenty of organizations who have not been any better for it. You can't name me a single organization that has attempted a tank, whether you think they're tanking or whether you're just speculating that they've been tanking. You can't tell me a single organization in the last 10 years of football that has actually done that to their benefit without some kind of catastrophic situation happening, because these things are too unpredictable for you to leave it into the fate of the draft, which is the most unscientific science that we have in professional sports. So I think Jody Newell says the Colts did for luck. Yeah, and that didn't work for them. How many championships did they get out of it? Now, I know that Luck retired in a way that's uncharacteristic for most teams, but again, it didn't work. They got luck. They had some success. They won no AFC championships. They made no Super Bowls. They won no Super Bowls. The tanking is nonsense. So you will not ever sell me on the idea of tanking. But if this team goes 0-4 heading into a Week 5 bye, then yes, I am pro selling off players while still trying to compete for a football team. Jody Newell says they did it, though. Yeah, that's the point. But that's the point. They did it, and it didn't work. the Dolphins have been accused of tanking for Tua. Look at the Dolphins right now. And I know Tua's situation is singular. But again, these things don't work. They are not guaranteed to get you a Super Bowl, nor are they guaranteed to get you a surefire thing at quarterback, because luck didn't last. Tua hasn't lasted. Football is unpredictable that way. You are better off trying to stay competitive and trying to game the draft the best possible way, no matter what your draft position is, whether it's compensatory picks, whether it's selling assets at the deadline. Tanking does not work. Whether you believe that or not, that's up to you. But there is significant evidence there that would caution you against subjecting your organization to actively losing games. And it turns out right now they're having no trouble actively losing games. You don't even have to tank because they're just not good enough to win right now. The question is, can they be good enough to salvage this season starting tomorrow night? Troy Spinagle says, What's don't play well in national televised games? I have no idea what that means, but yes, they do play on national TV tomorrow. Rand knows this year tanking doesn't work, says Deandra. Is that how I pronounce it, Deandra? Forgive me if I've mispronounced it, but yes, tanking is not acceptable at this point. So don't turn the ball over. That's the first and foremost key to winning this game. Oh, okay. Troy corrects himself, saying Titans plus national televised games equals blowout games. Well, that wasn't the case last year, right? Monday Night Football, they won by 2. It was a 1-point win. 1-point win over Miami in the final 3 minutes, less than 3.5 minutes of that game. It wasn't a blowout either way. It was a comeback win, and it was the biggest point spread upset of the NFL season last year. Best AFC teams over the last 20 years never tank, says David Allen. Correct. Patriots, Steelers, Chiefs, Ravens. Tanking is for losers. If you want to be a loser, if you want to feel any more like a loser than you are right now, then tanking is for you. So if you want your organization to submit, to curl up in the fetal position in the first month of the NFL season and just bottom this thing out in ways that Mike Vrabel was never willing to do, and I'm damn certain that Brian Callahan is not going to be willing to do, then that's on you. But I can tell you that players and coaches will never, ever, ever actively submit to tanking. J.G. Grogan says, great backdrop, Buck. Yeah, we're here in South Beach. We're hanging out for Monday Night Football, of course. No primetime tomorrow, of course, because there is a primetime game. But I will normally Sam does Tuesdays. I'm going to do Tuesday night. I'll be back in Nashville by Tuesday night. I'm going to do the radio show here in Miami on Monday and Tuesday. And then on Tuesday, I'll fly back after radio, and we will do primetime from home. So no Sam on Tuesday. You're stuck with me since it's a reaction show, and I'm, of course, here on the scene covering it. So what is the biggest key to winning this game? Well, the turnover margin is the start. The second part of this is an increased role for Nick Westbrook-Akina. More snaps for DeAndre Hopkins, more snaps for NWI, less snaps for Treylon Burks. I know that those are 3 keys unto themselves, but they all come down to the same thing. Adjust your wide receiver rotation. Get Burks out of there. He's not reliable. Get Hop more involved. Hop coming off his best performance of the season against the Green Bay Packers, where he caught 6 of his 7 targets, had a grown-ass man touchdown, even though the game was kind of out of hand at that point. DeAndre Hopkins cycling up is good news, and Nick Westbrook-Akina doesn't have a target on the season. That has to be rectified before tomorrow. I don't know how much more evidence they need to see of Treylon Burks being unreliable before they make a change, because all NWI does is be reliable. Even if he's not the most flashy player, he does consistently get you first downs, and that is something that you cannot do with Treylon Burks at this particular time. I'm still waiting for the Treylon Burks breakout game. Maybe it comes tomorrow. I would be surprised. In the absence of that, I am pro NWI getting more snaps than Treylon Burks. And, of course, Hopkins, I would like to see him outsnap Treylon Burks at this point. Bald and Bearded asks, is Simmons playing? Don't know if you covered it yet. I'm late. Well, let's talk about Big Jeff and the injury report right now. Let's get your assessment. The question that I'm going to ask you is this. How would you evaluate Jeff Simmons' season so far through 3 weeks, and with him listed as doubtful? He hasn't officially been ruled out, but he is considered doubtful for tomorrow night's game. I haven't seen any official reporting, nor have I heard from anybody credible that Jeff is officially out, but we will keep an eye on that for you, of course, when the inactives come down tomorrow. With everything going on at this point, how would you evaluate Jeff Simmons' season? We will get into it together right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by Zen Sports. Download the app, plug in the promo code ATOZTN, get up to $100 on your no-danger first wager. Terms and conditions do apply. Must be 21 plus in the state of Tennessee to bet at Zen Sports. Gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789 for those resources if you need. So, how would you evaluate Jeffrey Simmons' season? Halo says a C. Who is Big Jeff's backup, says Karen O'Keefe. That's also a good question. I guess I would venture a guess to say Sebastian Joseph Day would see a good bit more of work, even though he and Tavondre Sweat are playing, basically an even number of snaps alongside Jeff at this point when they have 3 down defensive linemen. Jody Newell says he's been steady, not flashing like usual. I have seen some flashes of him, but it's not produced sacks, right? I mean, it may have produced sacks for other people with Jeff Simmons and Tavondre Sweat with some interior pressure. Harold Landry has been the beneficiary of that. I know that they have had other edge guys be the beneficiary of Jeff Simmons attracting attention. So, Jeff has been solid. He's not been special, though, and I think that's what you need. If he's not available tomorrow, it's going to be a knock against him, right? Even though you don't blame guys for getting injured. The question with Jeff at this point in his tenure and part of the reason that he got upset with me is because I had said, based on the number of games that he missed, and listen, I understand why he got upset about it, but when I talked to him after the fact, I let him know that I stand by the point that he's not been available on the second contract as much as he should be, as much as he needs to be to live up to the contract, right? When you're paid that much money, it is impossible for that much money to not become a part of the analysis around you as a player. And the reality of it is that Jeff and the team around him have not met the standard to which they all hold themselves to. Now, can he change that? Can he turn things around for the rest of the season? Potentially. But Jeff is disruptive no matter what. He was disruptive in the Jets game. He was disruptive in the Bears game. He was disruptive in the Packers game, even if he has not been the person sacking the quarterback himself. The problem with Jeff, though, is you are the face of the team at this point. Anytime you miss a game, it's going to be a part of the discussion point when you are on the kind of second contract that Jeff Simmons is on. And you hope that it doesn't become a trend because he's doubtful with an elbow injury. He hasn't been officially ruled out. But with all of these things going on, the criticism of Jeff from you guys has been louder than I've ever heard it. And I don't think that the criticism has been entirely fair, but I do understand, for the same reasons that I'm having that conversation, why you guys are having that conversation. Once you get to that second contract, people start pocket watching your performance as well. Ben Hall seems too content by resigning himself to be double teamed, brother. I would invite you to do something other than be not resigning yourself. I would invite you to try and beat a double team, no matter who you are in the NFL, or if you are somebody who is, even if you're Jeff's size and skill and speed and power, pretty tough to beat double teams in the NFL. That's a pretty ridiculous statement, to be completely honest with you. He's not being resigned. He's not resigning himself to be double teamed. He is the player that every opposing offense is keying on to take him out. And thus far, they have had relative levels of success or lack thereof. That's not been an overwhelmingly successful game plan for teams, but resigning himself to be double teamed is just foolish and frankly ignorant of what it is that a double team in the NFL requires a player to beat. I've seen him beat plenty of them this year, but it's been for run stuffs and not necessarily for sacks himself. I know he does have 1 sack on the season, and he would like more. Now, his pressures are a different story. They have kept him from pressuring the quarterback, but you've seen other people be the beneficiary of that. The point is the Titans' pass rush around him is not good, which is something that we knew. Honestly, if you want to be critical of anybody, we've talked about this before. In 2020, Jeff Simmons and Harold Landry were part of the worst third down defense in the history of football since the merger. So the fact that they're struggling again because they don't have legitimate help alongside them is not shocking to me at all. They are one of the worst pass rushing groups in football. They are in the low 20s at this point of 32 qualified NFL teams where it comes to pressure rate. And that is one of the most beyond the right tackle struggles. That was the second most predictable thing on the football team this year. They didn't have enough on the edge. Arden Key is not satisfactory enough alongside Harold Landry. And frankly, there have been some situations where Arden has been the more efficient pass rusher than Harold, which is also the product of teams queuing on Harold and Jeff because if you take those two out of the game or if you disrupt those two enough, then you're asking Sebastian Joseph Day, a rookie, and Tavondre Sweat, and Arden Key to go out there and beat you. And that's not any kind of world-beating group yet. Maybe Sweat becomes something, and he ultimately gets to the level that Jeff and Harold need him at. But right now, it's not good enough, and this is something we all knew was a problem in the offseason. It's why I wanted them to trade for Matt Judon when Matt Judon was available to be had. But that is what it is. It's only excuse-making at this point if you're a Titans fan and you want to see them go and be. So I would give Jeff I think a C is fair. I think a C is fair for what he's able to do, what he hasn't been able to do, and also, if he's doubtful, sounds like he's not going to be available for the game. But again, I haven't heard specifically whether Jeff will be out or will be on a pitch count or anything to that effect. I'm sure we'll hear more tomorrow as the day wears on. It sounds like it's going to be a kind of an up to the minute type of situation. They have been they've had him in bubble wrap all week long though, which does not lend itself to optimism about Jeff Simmons' availability. With that, we'll wrap this thing up. We'll do a little Sunday Funday. What's the best thing you saw on this football Sunday? Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch in the comment section. If you would like to get involved there, I will show you what my favorite thing from this Sunday was here in just a second, other than taking a walk on the beach here in Miami, because Miami is beautiful. It makes me happy to be on the beach. We will get to that here in just a second, right after I remind you that the Primetime program is presented by Factor Meals. Promo code ATOZ50 gets you the fresh, nutritious, and satisfying offers that Factor Meals can provide to you. It's a great value for your buck, and that promo code will help you get in on those wellness goals that you're trying to accomplish with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. Head to factormeals.com/ATOZ50 and use code ATOZ50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code ATOZ50 at factormeals.com/ATOZ50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active at Factor Meals. Take advantage of that offer because I believe this is the last day that offer is going to be valid. I believe it expires in October. So take advantage of the great people or the great offer that the people at Factor Meals can provide. Sunday Funday. What's the best thing I saw this Sunday? Well, there's a lot. It was enjoyable to watch football. And, to take it in. I went to a bar for the early slate. Then I took the afternoon. Most of the second half, most of the early slate games were kind of garbage. That Eagles-Bucks game was terrible. The Jets-Broncos game was worse. And, of course, the Chargers-Chiefs was the marquee today. So I went for a walk on South Beach and missed some of the action. But when I came back, I was able to catch the post-game interview of Joe Flacco, who was, of course, the Colts' backup quarterback who came in for the injured Anthony Richardson. He left with a hip injury today. He was ruled out very quickly. And Joe Flacco gave one of the best post-game quotes that I've seen to date.
Joe Flacco, do you ever age?
Believe me, yeah, I do. Hey. Oh, man. Listen, when you're out here in this environment, no, you feel like you're 12 years old. I mean, I said it last year. Wow. I mean, this is a little bit of a different experience. It's not the best, not the most ideal when you're trotting onto the field, obviously, when your guy goes down. But every time you get a chance to go out there, it's a blessing, and I'm definitely very fortunate for it.
What was clicking so well? Was it the familiarity with Mike Tomlin and the Steelers?
I don't know if everything was clicking super well, but we did enough, And, really was able to rely on some underneath stuff by Josh Downs today, like to kind of get us first downs. He made a couple big big third down conversions along with Pittman on that like second to last drive, third to last drive. That drive ended up being huge. So you just go rely on your guys and trust the play caller, and everything else takes care of itself.
I do have to tell you, Anthony Richardson told us that you were cooler than he thought he was.
Listen, he told me his mom is 8 days older than I am. So there's no chance in the world that he thinks I'm cool. So.
All right, what about your kids, though? What do you think they think of this one?
This is the first game they've come to this year, and Dad's on the field. So I'll look up there for him and see if I can find him. I'm sure they'll have a bunch of critiques for me. That's about it.
We appreciate the time. Thank you. Always.
That's Joe Flacco, the ageless wonder. Joe Flacco may have been elite the entire time, and the quarterback play right now is just exposing how bad quarterbacks are around Joe Flacco, because he came in and helped the Colts beat the Pittsburgh Steelers today after Richardson went down with a hip injury. We'll see. It doesn't sound like it's going to be terribly long-term for Anthony Richardson, so that Week 6 game against the Titans does loom large at this point. But honestly, if I was a Titans fan, I'd rather see Richardson than Flacco. I think Flacco would come out there and give you a pretty good game, honestly, at this point. With everything that happened today, there was also a lot of former Titans that had a game, particularly for the Chargers. Tier Tart, Elijah Molden, Christian Fulton had a pick against Patrick Mahomes, and Bud Dupree was active against the Chiefs as well. It was pretty interesting to see. The Jaden Daniels experience, though, is probably the best thing I saw from this NFL Sunday. In reality, if I could make the Alabama-Georgia game last night my Sunday Funday, I would. But, of course, that was on Saturday, so it does not apply to our Sunday Funday discussion. That's going to do it for us here from South Beach. When next we speak, it'll be tomorrow morning on the radio show. We'll preview this game for 3 hours. We'll get you up to speed on everything that's going on. We'll have more injury information at your disposal. With that being said, I'll be doing the radio show right here from this spot. So if you want to come hang out with me, subscribe to 104.5 The Zone on YouTube. If you can't catch the radio show live on 104.5 FM in Nashville, you can also subscribe to the podcast. I'm on from 10 to 1 Central Time, but that will be 11 to 2 here on the East Coast. So 11 to 2 Eastern Time, 10 to 1 Central for those of you back in Middle Tennessee. If you're not either in those time zones, I'm going to let you do the math to figure it out. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. here in Miami on 104.5 The Zone. See you guys. Go home.